I'm full gas and I'm managing where I've been asked to manage, and for some reason just lacking power today.
Suzuka, back straight, full throttle. Lewis Hamilton hits 337 kilometers per hour and stops climbing. 300 meters before the braking zone, the power dies. Not from damage, not from error, from a battery that simply ran out of breath. Meanwhile, a Mercedes flies past at 347 kilometers per hour, holding full power like the rules were written differently for them. Because in 2026, maybe they were. So here's the question nobody in the paddock wants to answer out loud. Is Ferrari about to detonate the most dangerous engine upgrade of this entire season? And is Mercedes winning races or winning a system they helped design? To understand what Ferrari built, you first have to feel what Hamilton suffered. At Suzuka, Lewis was fighting a car that felt like a light switch, no power, then a violent electrical kick that snapped the rear end sideways. His telemetry showed one brutal truth. The MG UK was hitting its minimum charge limit 300 meters before every braking zone. Engineers called it the clipping ghost, and it cost him everything. But that was just the start, because while Hamilton was losing straight line battles, something uglier was brewing in the Mercedes garage. Their cars, and Red Bull's, were crawling through 300-kilometer-per-hour corners during practice. Not from damage, not from failure, from a deliberate trigger. Mercedes had found the emergency shutoff mode, a kill switch built into the 2026 rules for genuine breakdowns, and turned it into a qualifying weapon. Full 350 kilowatts to the finish line, then take the 60-second battery lockout on the cooldown lap, a lap that means nothing. Ferrari was stepping power down in 50-kilowatt drops exactly as the rules intended. Mercedes skipped every single step. And this is where the story gets dark. Because at Suzuka, Oliver Behrman's car hit a 50-kilometer-per-hour speed gap going into Spoon, a real crash, a 50G impact, a bruised knee, and a destroyed race. The drivers had been warning the FIA for weeks. The FIA's own data confirmed it, and still, no ban, no order, just a meeting scheduled for the 9th of April in London. 3 races, 3 separate Mercedes controversies, one pattern that the paddock can no longer ignore. Ferrari's answer was a brake duct modification so subtle that most cameras missed it entirely. At Suzuka, they reduced the hot air outlet from the front brake ducts, accepting a controlled thermal risk in exchange for something far more valuable, a cleaner front wheel wake, cleaner air feeding the underbody, more downforce without a single extra aerodynamic element, performance without paying the usual price. In Formula One, every gain has a penalty. More load means more drag, more speed means less grip. Ferrari found the one area where that exchange almost disappears. But here's the twist. This isn't a 2025 solution. Ferrari is using every race as a laboratory for 2026. They're not developing the current car. They're building a philosophy, a different way of understanding how air should move around the entire machine. And while rivals scramble to understand what Ferrari did at Suzuka, Ferrari is already 3 steps ahead, testing its limits at the next circuit. Now here's the part that changes everything. Ferrari's B-Spec engine isn't just an upgrade, it's a complete thermodynamic rebuild targeting the exact weaknesses that telemetry exposed at Suzuka. The combustion chamber geometry has been redesigned with a new shell fuel mixture that dances right on the edge of the FIA's 16:1 compression limit. This generates what engineers call virtual horsepower, grunt that doesn't drain the battery. The result? In Spec A, the electric motor was being consumed just to overcome drag. In B-Spec, the combustion engine handles the drag. The MG UK focuses entirely on acceleration. That shift alone recovers 15 to 20 horsepower Ferrari has been missing since Australia. But the single biggest change is invisible on the outside. The energy deployment algorithm has been completely rewritten. Instead of dumping all electrical power at the start of the straight, the B-Spec calculates the remaining battery life and meters the 350 kilowatt boost all the way to the 1.2 kilometer mark. At Suzuka, Hamilton's speed line plateaued at 337 kilometers per hour, then visibly dropped. B-Spec simulations show it climbing to 348, 10 kilometers per hour, the difference between being the sitting duck and being the hunter. And the clipping point, the moment the battery dies, moves from the 700-meter mark to the 1100-meter mark. 400 extra meters of full power, 0.3 of a second, free, every single lap. Over 50 laps, that's 15 seconds found purely through energy management. 3 consequences are now colliding simultaneously. First, Hamilton. The B-Spec introduces torque linearization, smoothing the violent transition between turbo and electric power that was destroying his confidence in the S-curves. When Lewis trusts the rear end, his entire driving geometry transforms. The survival U-lines disappear. The legendary V-shaped apex rotation returns. A happy Hamilton with 10 extra kilometers per hour is a nightmare for every rival on the grid. Second, the championship. Mercedes leads with 135 points. Ferrari sits at 90. 3 races, 3 front-row lockouts. Antonelli leads the driver's title at 19 years old. But every single advantage Mercedes holds is now under formal review. The 9th of April meeting will determine whether those margins were earned or extracted from loopholes. Third, and most dangerous, the credibility of the sport itself. Hamilton didn't just complain about his car after Japan, he dropped a political bomb. He stated openly that he expects nothing from the FIA's regulation meetings because drivers have no real power over decisions that directly affect them on track. When a 7-time world champion tells the world that the system is broken, that isn't a quote, that is a warning. Scenario 1, the B-Spec delivers in Miami. Hamilton takes a podium, Ferrari closes the gap, and suddenly Mercedes' 3-race stranglehold looks fragile. Scenario 2, the FIA bans the emergency shutoff at the April meeting. Mercedes loses its qualifying weapon, the grid resets, and Antonelli's championship lead starts shrinking race by race. Scenario 3, the FIA acts too slowly. Teams adapt to an unstable regulation, the gaps widen, another crash happens, and Formula One spends the rest of 2026 fighting a crisis that everyone in the paddock saw coming and nobody stopped in time. Ferrari has the engine. Hamilton has the motivation. The B-Spec has the numbers. But here's what nobody can answer yet. Will the FIA close the loophole before Miami, or give Mercedes one more race to extend a lead built on a system that was never meant to be used this way? And if Hamilton stands on that Miami podium with a B-Spec engine and a new race engineer who knows Mercedes' own playbook from the inside, will that be a comeback? Or will it be the moment this entire championship flips upside down? One thing is certain, the Florida heat is coming, and so is the reckoning. If you made it this far, you already know this season isn't about who's fastest, it's about who survives the politics. So tell me, is Mercedes engineering brilliance or engineering the rules themselves?